Hello, everyone. Welcome to Celsius 233, your go-to place for fiction book summaries. Today, we will explore the depths of Anne of Windy Poplars by L.M. Montgomery. Anne of Windy Poplars, written by Lucy Maud Montgomery and published in 1936, is the fourth book in the beloved Anne of Green Gables series. Set between Anne Shirley's engagement to Gilbert Blythe and their eventual marriage, this epistolary novel primarily unfolds through Anne's letters to Gilbert. The story captures her experiences during her 3 years as the principal of Summerside High School, where she faces new challenges and encounters quirky, memorable characters. Plot summary: Anne Shirley arrived in Summerside, excited to start her new role as the principal of Summerside High School. She had recently become engaged to Gilbert Blythe, and their future together seemed bright. For the next 3 years, Anne would be separated from him as he pursued his medical studies. She settled into Windy Poplars, a charming house on Spooks Lane, where she was greeted by its eccentric inhabitants, 2 widows, Aunt Kate and Aunt Chatty, and their sharp-tongued housekeeper, Rebecca Dew. Anne immediately felt a sense of magic at Windy Poplars. The house, surrounded by aspen poplars and tucked away from the bustle of the town, had a comforting air that reminded her of Green Gables. It didn't take long for her to befriend the widows, who adored her from the beginning. Rebecca Dew, though prickly, softened under Anne's warmth, and even Dusty Miller, the house cat Rebecca loathed, quickly took a liking to her. However, as she prepared to meet her students and take on her duties at Summerside High, Anne soon learned that winning over the town would be far from easy. Summerside was ruled by the Pringle family, a formidable and influential clan known as the Royal Family. They were displeased that Anne had been appointed principal over one of their own relatives. Leading the opposition was Jen Pringle, a clever and mischievous student determined to undermine Anne's authority. Anne quickly sensed Jen's hostility and soon discovered that many of her students, those connected to the Pringle clan, would be difficult to manage. Determined to overcome the Pringle resistance, Anne faced numerous small trials. The students played pranks on her, snuck notes in class, and whispered behind her back. But despite their efforts to unsettle her, Anne maintained her grace and sense of humor. She tackled the insubordination with a mix of patience and wit, determined to remain kind-hearted in the face of adversity. Outside of school, Anne built meaningful connections with the quirky residents of Summerside. Her letters to Gilbert brimmed with tales of the people she encountered, from the gossiping Mrs. Braddock to the mysterious inhabitants of the Evergreens, the grand estate next door to Windy Poplars. Among these neighbors was little Elizabeth Grayson, a lonely, dreamy child who lived under the strict care of her grandmother and a harsh maid. Elizabeth's life was quiet and controlled, and she spent much of her time lost in her imagination. She believed that one day, tomorrow would arrive, bringing her freedom and happiness. Anne, recognizing something of her own youthful self in Elizabeth, set out to befriend the girl. Over time, she taught Elizabeth the joy of laughter and encouraged her to dream even bigger. The Pringles, however, were not as easy to charm. Anne's struggles with the family continued, and the townspeople, wary of crossing the Pringles, kept their distance from her. Yet Anne was not one to give up. She refused to let the coldness of a few people sour her experience in Summerside. Bit by bit, her kindness and resilience began to melt the icy barrier the Pringles had built around themselves. One of the pivotal moments in her battle with the Pringles came when she was invited to Maplehurst, the grand Pringle estate, for dinner with Miss Ellen and Miss Sarah Pringle. Despite the initial discomfort of being in the lion's den, Anne's grace and charm shone through. She began to understand the deeper complexities of the family, its pride and history, and the loneliness that underpinned their rigid social structure. While she didn't win their full approval, the ice began to crack. Slowly, even Jen Pringle's attitude shifted, as she began to admire Anne's integrity and spirit. Amid these struggles, Anne found joy in her surroundings. Windy Poplars became a true sanctuary for her, where the winds played among the poplars, and the peaceful evenings allowed her time for reflection. She came to love the town's rhythms, the quirks of its people, and the friendships that deepened with each passing season. As the years went on, Anne's persistence paid off. Gradually, the people of Summerside warmed to her, including some members of the Pringle clan. Jen Pringle, who had been her fiercest adversary, slowly came to respect Anne, and by the time Anne's tenure was nearing its end, the rebellious student was no longer an enemy but a reluctant ally. Other students, inspired by Anne's teaching and nurturing nature, blossomed under her care. The townspeople, too, began to embrace her, realizing that Anne's warmth and kindness could not be ignored. Through it all, Anne's letters to Gilbert were filled with reflections on her experiences, her triumphs, her frustrations, and her small victories. Windy Poplars had become a place of growth and learning for her, just as much as it was for her students. And though she longed for the day when she would be reunited with Gilbert and begin their life together, Anne cherished the years spent in Summerside. She had faced the challenge of living in a new town, battling social prejudice, and winning the hearts of a stubborn community, all while staying true to herself. As her time at Summerside came to a close, Anne looked forward to her future with a full heart. She had not only succeeded in her role as principal, but had also made lifelong friends and left a lasting impact on those around her. Windy Poplars would forever hold a special place in her memories, a chapter of her life where she had once again proven that love, patience, and imagination could overcome even the most daunting obstacles. That's a wrap for today, but there's more to explore in Anne of Green Gables series by L.M. Montgomery. Check the description or Celsius 233 to keep the adventure going. Remember, while our summaries capture the essence, they can never replace the full experience of reading the book. If this summary intrigued you, consider diving into the complete story, buy the book, and immerse yourself in L.M. Montgomery's original work. Bye-bye, take care, have fun.